This is a great honor for every fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm honored to be in the NFL.
What can I say? Mamba out.
All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to your Monday edition, of course, of the afternoon show. I'll be your host and producer, Logan Landers, and joining me this afternoon is the dynamic duo, of course, of Tony and Chris Gonzalez. Guys, what's up? How y'all doing today? How was your weekend?
Not too bad.
Nice. Y'all have a show this weekend? Y'all do a wrestling show?
Oh no, we were supposed to, but Chris was under the weather, so we didn't do it Sunday.
I understood. All right. Joining us, here in a little bit will be, of course, Jay McLovin. He's stuck in that wonderful Houston traffic, so he will. We'll bring him on whenever he gets home after getting some stuff done to his car. So whenever he comes back, he will be here as well. Of course, if you guys enjoy the episode, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. We go live, of course, every Monday through Friday, 2:00 Eastern, here on the channel, on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, anywhere else, of course. And also, you can just check out all of our other great shows on the network in our link tree. Of course, that is in the description. Just click on that and take a scroll through the page, and you can find all of our amazing content each and every single day and week. All right, well, guys, kind of in that lull period at the moment. After the Super Bowl, waiting for baseball to kick off, at least the regular season. I know spring training's underway, but there's not a whole lot of headlines out there just quite yet in terms of baseball stuff. Just, mostly hoping your guys stay injury-free. And if they put up good numbers, great. If not, who really cares? It's preseason, it's exhibition. You just hope that they don't get beat up too bad. That's the only time you can kind of worry. But today's going to be kind of more of a basketball heavy show. And we'll talk a little bit of baseball once Jay hops in. We'll talk the top pitching rotations in the league right now. But we got a lot of basketball to cover today, so let's just go ahead and hop into that. And not really on the court, but kind of the work done off the court. We'll talk about a familiar face here on the channel, and that's Zion Williamson. It's listed that he is now the lightest he's been since 2019. He's clocking in now at around 265, 264, somewhere in that range. And I mean, it took this long. What was he doing when he was hurt? I'm glad he's in shape now, or in better shape, because I know he's not going to be, he's not going to be 200 pounds. He's not going to get there. Those pipe dreams and whatnot are over. Maybe at best, 240, 230, potentially a super lean 230. But I mean, hey, whenever he's been on the court this year, though, he's been good. He's been a really good player. But that's just been the thing, is you hadn't seen him a whole lot. But it came in now that he's lighter. He doesn't have obviously when you lose all that weight, you don't have as much pressure on your knees, on your other joints in your body. So when you're playing a high, not contact, but using a bunch of joints for jumping, for landing on your feet, and for stuff like that, and for Zion, who's more of a guy who's going to drive to the rim and use his body to make contact with players. That it's good to have a little bit of extra weight on you. You don't want to be an absolute twig, but he was more than I think he had more than enough weight and body fat on him that he could shed a couple of pounds, and now he has. So I mean, now obviously the Pelicans aren't doing a damn thing. They're one of the worst teams in the league, but at least their face, the franchise that they drafted years ago, is now seemingly in better shape than he has been before. So I mean, guys, it looks like we're finally turning a corner here 5-6 years later. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Zion. I mean,
you don't think it's gonna stick?
Yeah, I just don't think it's gonna stick. I mean, like you said, it's been 5 or 6 years. I mean, I know he's still pretty young. I mean, he's not like he's in his 30s. He's what is he?
No, he's 24. He's going on 25 this July.
Yeah, one thing about makes it tough when a guy comes in the league 19, 20. He's not real mature, and everybody's different. But I mean, like you said, whenever he plays, he's good on the floor. I just wish he would be a little bit more about being in shape and being more of a team player. And I mean, as far as and what I mean by being a team player is it's just not on the court; it's off the court. You got to be there for your team. You got to be on the court. So if you're not on the court and you're not doing the things to be on the court, then you're, in my opinion, you're not a team player.
Yeah, and Chris, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, obviously, we've all said for years, hell, the media hyped him up to be the next LeBron. And granted, I think he is one of the I think he's like in the top 5 now for fastest players to score 5,000 points, just because he was drafted at a younger age. But we haven't seen that full potential yet. We haven't seen, healthy seasons, plural for that, and he's on an awful team. So, I mean, he's not doing himself any favors in years past by being out of shape, getting hurt. Obviously, is one thing, but I mean, you can control your weight. Injuries are kind of iffy, right? You can if you're overweight, you can control that part of it, which does play a fact in how often you get injured. But now that he's seemingly, trimmed up a little bit, I would hope that would mean that he's going to be on the court more than what we've seen in recent seasons.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to see that he's back down to basically what he closer to what he was when he got drafted.
Yeah.
But the main thing is going to be, can he stay healthy? That's been his whole, over the last 4 or 5 years. That's been his whole problem is being on the court. I was just reading the thing that despite how many games he's played, he is still one of the most game planned and double team players in the NBA when he's on the court. And the numbers he's been putting up here since he's been back, he's been putting up real good numbers. It's just going to depend on can he stay on the court for an extended period of time. It just seems like he's on the court maybe a month or so, and then something goes wrong, and he's out 3 or 4 months or longer.
What percentage of games has he missed over his career? Probably 30 or 40% of his games,
if not more. I mean, it feels like he's barely there.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, he's still one of the faster one to get to to those points, a high amount of points. So I mean, just imagine what he could have done if he'd been on the court 80% of the time or 90% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, like Chris too, you got to respect him too. He is getting double teamed, like a lot of the superstars do. So at least he's he's still making it work all in all. But glad to see he finally took that approach. He's trimmed down some. I don't know how much more weight he's going to lose, but I don't think it's going to be a bad thing if he keeps losing some. So we'll see how that goes. But happy to see that if you're a Pelicans fan, that is one of the few bright spots, I guess, for the season in a year that's just been filled with a lot of negativity. They had a lot of hype going into the year, right? They had Brandon Ingram and company. They had hopefully they're going to have Zion for the whole year, so on and so forth. They had CJ McCollum, but man, it just did not work out. It has floundered. Nothing's worked over there, and here we are. As there are, I don't know if they're the worst team in the league, but let me see. Check the standings super quick here.
I think Charlotte's the worst.
No. Hold on. So the Pelicans are they're tied for the worst record in the West at 14-43 as of this recording, right? The worst team in the league is the Washington Wizards, guys. They sit at 9-47.
What's Charlotte at? Charlotte hasn't won many more games, have they?
No, Charlotte's at 14-41, so they're the second worst team in the East. But man, I mean, that's still not as bad as Detroit was last year. For God's sake, Detroit won 10, 12 games all season.
Look at them this year. They're playing really well right now.
Do you think that was just the change of scene, the change of coaching staff that was all that, or was it, their pickups in the draft and free agency, or just kind of all coupled into one? Because for the most part, right, it is the same core of guys from last season. It's just you're seeing they're developing a little bit more. The young guys like the Cunninghams. I know Ivy got hurt, which is unfortunate, but he was a good player before he got hurt this year. But Detroit's got a lot of talent, and I mean, right now they're a number 6 seed. They're seemingly going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're playing really well right now.
Yeah, I think their talent finally started to develop. Where like you just mentioned, Cunningham's really improved since last year to this year, and I think Ivy as well. I think the young guys have found their way, and then because I think Monty Williams is a good coach. I don't know what happened with him there.
He won Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with him there in Detroit last year. That was kind of strange. because when he went there, I didn't expect him to win a title, but I expected him that he would get it turned around because we've seen him do it before. But so I think the new coach must have helped some, but I think a lot of it is just your young players getting a little older and more experience and developing into what they can be.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I mean, and that's the the crazy thing too is that it was JB Bickerstaff is their new head coach, who he was with Cleveland last year, I believe, and Cleveland had a good year last year. But now that he left Cleveland and now went to Detroit. Detroit's on a upward swing, thankfully, for their fans, and Cleveland is. I mean, they were good last year, but it feels like they're even better this year. So they just kind of swap head coaches, but it worked out for both teams in one of the rare instances. But I know both those teams are obviously happy with their results so far this year.
Hey, how's it going, Big Phil? Looking forward to seeing you here in a couple weeks as well. Yeah, it's only about 3 weeks.
Yep.
Damn, Comic-Con's coming quick.
Is it going to be in Indianapolis?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we'll do a bunch of we'll do about, I don't know what, 13, 14, 15 wrestling shows that weekend.
3 days.
Man, I know y'all better have your coffee on deck. It sounds like it's going to be some busy, long nights.
Yeah, it is. It's long days.
It's a great weekend, but it's a long weekend.
Safe to say, I think we'll give you guys that Monday off so y'all can recover.
Yeah, we probably will be recovering. That's no lie.
You guys will earn it.
I might need a week off.
We'll get you some of the liquid IVs. I don't know if y'all have those. Really just pour it in the water, get your electrolytes in. You'll be all set. You'll be fine.
They've got those some canisters of oxygen you can take.
Yeah,
I've seen that on Shark Tank.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, just keep those in your pocket. You'll be good. You'll be fine. Oh, all right. Well, let's keep talking about that injury bug, right? We talked about it with Zion, how he's been hurt, so on and so forth. Well, let's talk about a guy who was just at the peak of his game, a guy who was MVP last season, and now is just not looking in that form at all this year. And of course, that's going to be Joel Embiid. Came out that the team and Joel are exploring options for a knee injury. Maybe a surgery, perhaps. It's his left knee that's been injured. He says he's been getting injections, but it's not really been helping his play, obviously. He's missed 39 games. He missed 39 games last season. He had surgery in early February, came back in April last year. Did good in the playoffs for the most part. Was on the U.S. team in the summer. But this year, though, he's had a foot sprain as well as those knee issues. So he's played in just 19 out of 56 games. And before I keep going, bring on my boy Jay McLovin. Jay, glad you made it home from the Houston traffic, my brother. Hope all is well, and we're glad to have you on the show, Brent, my man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a crazy day in Houston traffic. You can't get any better than that, Logan. I'll tell you, it's like a big parking lot out there.
Jay, we just talked about Zion Williamson losing some weight, and I'm sure you and a lot of the people did in Houston then as well, with their AC was off. Houston in that traffic. So
yeah, absolutely. So Zion's lost some weight. Good for him. I wonder how that's going to translate into the longevity of him being able to stay healthy and be able to stay on the court for more than just one game at a time. Because when the guy's on the court, he's playing well. Logan, his points, his assists, rebound, it's all great. The problem is the man is just not able to stay on the court. So I don't know how much is that going to take off of that knee and back and all the other issues that he has.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, it means he's going to be on the court more. But I mean, hell, he has no reason to play it. I mean, hell, what does he have to play for? His team's one of the worst. They're not going anywhere.
Well, my thing is how much longer. I'm sorry. My thing is how much longer is New Orleans going to be patient with Zion and this lack of playing time? How much longer are they going to be before they try to either put him on the trade block if they can even get anything for him? How much longer is their patience going to stick with him?
I don't know if it's going to be much longer.
How many years does he have left on his contract?
I don't think a whole lot. He might be in his last year, if not one of. I mean, he might. I know he's not there for a whole lot longer. But I mean, if I'm him, I don't see a reason to go back. I mean, I'm trying to get out of there. Why would I want to go back?
But then you got to think too. So if he goes into his next contract or he becomes a free agent, starts looking for a team, is he going to be there for the league minimum of whatever he's getting? Because you're not giving that guy a big contract because of his injury status, right?
I think somebody will.
You're not going to give him a max. I wouldn't give him a max, but I wouldn't give him a minimum either. He's worth more than a minimum, I think, still, because he's only 24, going to be 25, so he's still a younger player. And hopefully that his play will be better and will be good. As we've seen for the rest of the season now, and that he can stay healthy, because he's playing for a contract now. He's not playing for playoffs; he's playing for a contract. So, hopefully that'll keep steady with him, and he can continue to look good. And we'll see if he still is in New Orleans or if they decide to get rid of him. But let's get back to Joel Embiid here, talking about how he might be going back under the knife, get some knee surgery. And also, he's been dealing with a foot sprain. Played 19 of 56 games this year. Won the MVP award in 22-23. But, man, the Sixers are just in a world of hurt right now. They've lost 7 games in a row. They're 20-36 this year. But when the trio of Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, when all three of them play, Philadelphia is still a lackluster 7-8 on the year. And we'll talk about Embiid first, and then I think we can transition it into the just poor play of Paul George. But let's just talk about Embiid first and foremost. A team that obviously has not met expectations this year, a team that was supposed to be, top 5, top 3 team in the East, might not even crack the playoffs this year with how poor their team has been playing this year. And obviously with their top player and Embiid being out for the vast majority of it, it could be the rest of the season. What do you do if you're the Sixers? Do you just say, let's just blow this up and wave the white flag on the year, go get your surgery, big fella, and hope you can come back next year healthy? Or do you still try to hold on to him? Do you bring him out to the court, even though he's not playing well? Obviously he's playing hurt, and just see if you can make some run at it and maybe something will click. It's kind of a tough spot for Philly right now. We'll go with Tony and Chris, give you all thoughts first, and then Jay, we'll kick it down to you.
I think if he needs surgery, I think you have it. I think you go ahead and have the surgery. This season is pretty much over. I mean, with the injuries and everything, and you got a lot of money invested in him, and if he's going to, hopefully he can be well the next 2 or 3 years and deliver for that team. But this year, I think you just pretty much got to write off. Yeah,
and Chris, do you share that sentiment?
Yeah, I'd sit him the rest of the season. If he needs surgery, get the surgery, because you tried to play him this year and he hasn't played. He's just played basically a handful of games, because of the injury. So if it's just going to keep being reoccurring, why not? It sucks, but like you said, they're not making the playoffs this year, so why not go ahead and shut him down and try to get him healthy for next season to try to make a run if you're going to keep him, or even if you're not going to keep him, if you get him healthy, he's going to be worth a lot more if you try to trade him or move on from him.
Yeah, and Jay, what do you think about this? Do you think that they should make and I think, well, we're all in agreement here, the smart move, and just shut them down for the year? You're not playing for top seed in the East, and you're more than likely not going to make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that make me lean towards that way that they've said in the article on ESPN talking about it. One is, they're talking about surgery and or rest, but they're bringing in specialists. When they're bringing in specialists, that tells me it's a little bit more than just a simple knee issue. Now we're talking about some very intricate things, and I'm going to tell you why. Number one, he's had injections, and that hasn't done anything to help him. Number two, when you do injections like that, you really start tearing away at that knee, because those injections, believe it or not, are not healthy for your knee by any way. Sometimes you even do more damage dealing with the injections than you do without the injections. So that is a significant thing. The other thing that makes me kind of nervous for Embiid is that this all started with a torn meniscus. And I've always said this, and I just know this from personal knowledge, is that the meniscus is the worst thing you can absolutely tear. And the reason being is, if I tear my ACL, MCL, PCL, or LCL, those can all be reattached, rehabilitation, things like that. You can strengthen the ligaments. You can get it back to somewhat good condition. The problem is it's never going to be 100%, okay? Every time you tear something, you're going to drastically reduce your playing career by X number of percent. I think Joe Stevens, who played for the NBA, Houston Rockets, and Vancouver Grizzlies, and a few other organizations, said that you only have so many jumps in your body before you're done. And I've got to tell you, I think that guys like Zion and guys like Embiid are vastly reducing that number of jumps that they have left in their body just because of the physical toll that they've taken. And I will tell you, unlike the MCL, PCL, ACLs, and things of that nature, the meniscus cannot be regenerated. When you go in there, you're not reattaching. You're clearing out whatever is strained to the point where it has to be cleaned out, but it doesn't ever regenerate. So that's why I hate the meniscus, because that's your shock absorber. And when your shock absorber's gone, there's nothing you can do about it. So it makes me think to myself that, and Stephen A had a good point, should Embiid actually retire? I don't think he's at the point of retirement by any means.
No.
But I will say this. It's not ever going to get any better for Embiid, okay? What you see going on right now with Embiid is going to be there for the rest of his natural life. Okay, it's only going to get worse. It's never getting any better. It will either stabilize or it will get worse. It will never be a truly 100% Embiid. That's not ever going to happen. So my thing is, I go along with what Chris and Tony are saying, and what you're saying is, I would sit him the season. I wouldn't play him anymore. I would do whatever I got to do, whether it be surgery or whatever, to clean out. If it's a meniscus issue, like I said, all you can do is clean it up, sew it back together through arthroscopic surgery, and then let him rest, let him do his exercises and rehab, and then let him go back on the court when the doctor deems he's able to do so. But I will tell you this, Logan, this is probably one of the few cases that I actually agree that load management is probably the best thing that you can do for Embiid. And I mean, what I mean by that, maybe you only play Embiid half the season and then rest him up and get him ready to go for a full length of the playoffs. Now, I know that sounds unfathomable because this is your main superstar guy. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for the team. And if he's not on the court, the best ability is availability. So you may have to do some serious load management with Embiid if you want to get him through an entire season and possibly the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it feels like this Sixers season has just kind of been cursed, right? Because, I mean, coming into the year, right, remember they started off the season pretty hot. They looked good. And then their rookie, Jared McCain, got hurt, he was doing really well. Then he got hurt, I believe, just about 10, 15 games or so. Or about 20 games or so into the season. But he was looking good. I mean, he was averaging, what is he averaging? About 15 points as a rookie, which hell, you'll take. That's solid. That's a good shooter right there. Mm-hmm. But then you couple that with Embiid getting hurt. He's only played in, 19 games this year. He's not played healthy at all, it feels like. But then now we'll kind of transition this into the other topic here with this team. And that's just, God, the fall off for Paul George. I mean, it was just a sharp decline. He's averaging 16.1 points on the year. He's giving you 32 minutes. He's played in 37 games, which is solid. But, I mean, God, that's not what you paid for. And they shelled out a lot of money for him. Jay, we'll flip to you first. What are your thoughts on I mean, it seems like right now the abysmal signing of Paul George to the Sixers because it ain't working right now.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. I think since Paul George left Indiana to go to the Clippers, he's only had that one really good playoff run where he was basically carrying the Clippers team when Kawhi Leonard went down. Outside of that one playoff run that he had with the Clippers, I have not been impressed at all with Paul George. And, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think Philly got what they got from him. But if you really do your study on Paul George, he wasn't doing a whole lot with the Clippers organization outside of that one season. So his fall off is just typical. I mean, I'm not a big Paul George fan, but it's what it is.
So believe it or not, Jay, Paul George's best year in terms of scoring was actually with the OKC Thunder. He had a 2-year stretch there, if you remember. Yeah. He averaged 28 points a game in 2018 and 19. Okay. And that was across 77 games. So that was probably his best statistical year. But in terms of just, always on the court, his last 2 seasons in Indiana, he averaged 23 points, played in 81 and 75 games. So he was there. He was putting in good work. Chris and Tony, as y'all know, watching him during that time. But we saw, he was in LA for 5 years, which kind of went by in a blur. It didn't feel like he was there that long, but he averaged 21 points, 23, 24, 23, 22. I mean, so those are still good numbers. Those are still respectable numbers. But I mean, you have a 5-6 point difference in terms of what you're averaging this year for Philadelphia. Also, couple that in the fact that he's shooting nearly a career low in free throws at only 82% when he was shooting in the 90s and high 80s in seasons past. I mean, it just seems like nothing's going for him right now. His three ball is 35.7, which is a little bit below what he's normally shooting. But I mean, he's shooting 42% from the field, right around a little bit lower maybe than recent years. But it's just nothing's working right now, and pretty much the same amount of minutes he's played in recent years.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. I hope he never wins nothing.
Well, so far he hasn't, and he ain't gonna win nothing this year. It looks like.
I mean, I think when Paul George was with Indiana, he was in that superstar. He was their main guy. He
was their top guy.
And then it seems like as he's left Indiana, like you said, he had some good, decent seasons out there with OKC, and then he had okay whatever with the Clippers, and now he's just basically shit the bed since he's gone to Philly. And I don't know if that's a rhythm thing or just him not being able to gel with the guys, whatever the case is, but I will tell you this. I think you can look at Paul George now, instead of being the superstar guy, now he's more of a role player at 16 points. So would he even be better coming off the bench per se?
Well, Jay, I don't know if I want to pay someone how much.
I agree with that. I mean, I know the money part of it. Yeah.
The worst part is he's in the first year of a 4-year, $211 million contract.
Golly.
And he's only giving you 16 points. I mean, Jay, he's arguably when healthy, he's their third best player. Maxi's ahead of both. Maxi's their best player on the court right now. He's their number one player.
Yeah.
I mean,
playing right now. I really do like the way Maxi is playing.
Yeah. So I mean,
everybody else to get on Maxi's page.
I'm not going to take up for George, but like you guys said, with all the injuries they've had, and they haven't played very many games together, the main nucleus, so that could affect them some. Again, I'm not heartbroken that he's not doing well, but that could be some of it. I mean, just the team's not really been together.
I mean,
it also says
Logan. When you look at that 2023-2024 season for the Clippers, which is the last year he played there, 74 games at 22.6 points, 5 and 3 on the rebounds and assists. I mean, those are good numbers. And then
those are solid numbers.
The rebounds and stats. I mean, the rebounds and assists stays the same, but his points go down by 8, and he's only got 37 games in.
We're already past the halfway point.
Yeah.
He's also been playing with the messed up finger on his shooting hand too. So I think that
could affect it.
I think that's part of why his scoring numbers are down too.
He's got the left pinky tendon injury, like Chris was saying. He's also dealing with a groin strain. Said he received some injections in order to play the last couple of games before the All-Star break. So I mean, he's beat up too. I mean, he's 34. He's not getting any younger. His body's been through the ringer. Maybe not as much as some other guys, but he's still been hurt a decent amount.
Right.
That's been his big problem. That's been his big problem since he left the Pacers and OKC when he got to the Clippers, and now with Sixers has been some injuries as well.
Yeah, because I mean, he was good. I mean, it was on that OKC team. They were a good team. They were him and Westbrook. They were a really good team there. They had a couple those 2 good seasons, and those were his last really good year. I mean, he was still a good player for the Clippers. He was still a good contributing player. You still want him on your team, but this year, I mean, it's just been a major fall off, and for a lot of reasons, that's just been that unfortunate kind of perfect snowball for the Sixers for what they've had this year with injuries and everything else along those lines. But we'll keep going here with the NBA, and this one's more just kind of an update for the 76, or excuse me, for the San Antonio Spurs. We hadn't seen him at all this season, but it is formally announced that Coach Greg Popovich, he's not going to come back this year. Not sure if he is going to come back in the future. Of course, we know in November he suffered a mild stroke that we didn't know even what had happened until somewhat recently that he'd even suffered a stroke. So it's just very unfortunate for this team. They suffered obviously the other week with Wembanyama being announced out for the rest of the season. That was your first kind of big blow, and then now it's announced that now that Coach Pop is not going to be back for this year, and who knows, he might not come back. We don't know yet. But obviously, we just hope that if he does come back, great. But he's got no reason to. I mean,
I'm about to say, I hope Popovich just retires. I mean, with his age, and now he's got, a stroke is nothing to play around with, and that involves a lot of stressful situations and things like that. Which NBA stress, competitive stress or whatever. So my thing with him is, I'm like, if I was talking to Pop, I'm like, hey, I think it's time. Look, you're almost 80 years old. It's time to relax, enjoy the good life. Yeah. You've won a lot of rings. You've had a lot of success. And do things like that. If he wants to do side consulting or whatever with the team, I think he's more of I think he should take more of if he wants to stay in the game of basketball because he loves it, then I would probably put him on a consulting role to where it takes some of that health risk away from him.
Yeah, Chris, Tony. I mean, like I said, it's unfortunate that we're not going to see Pop on the sidelines for the rest of this year, potentially ever. But I just hope he's healthy. I don't be damned if he's even on the court.
Yeah, I just want him to be healthy and have a good of the rest of his life. If he wants to come back, I guess he'll do what he wants to do. But I'm kind of like Jay. I think it's best to maybe end it. And but I got a question for you guys: who would end up being the coach? You think the guy that's the interim coach would probably take over?
That's a tough call, man. That's a really tough call because it's like one of those situations where you just associate a coach with a team. You know what I mean? And when you think of the Spurs, you think of Coach Pop. You don't think of anyone else. Just because he's been there forever. Especially, for him to be tenured for that long in the NBA is very impressive. And even when the team was struggling, they weren't winning championships or making the playoffs, they stuck with him and they said, hey, we're gonna stick with you, man, because we trust you. And it just kind of seems like as soon as they were starting to turn the corner a little bit, remember they traded for De'Aaron Fox at the trade deadline. Chris Paul's been their good mentor for a little bit now. Wembanyama was doing his thing. It all just kind of came crashing down, unfortunately. But man, I have no idea, Tony, who would even be put in those shoes next, because that is a daunting task.
Well, and one other problem that they'll have too is Popovich he's not just the head coach; he's also the president of basketball operations for the Spurs as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it would be a complete overhaul, basically. Whenever he does decide to step away from the organization.
They made Johnson the interim coach when he stepped away, so he's like 21 and 27 so far.
That's not bad, honestly.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So, if he does not come back next year, they might give that guy a shot because you have to. If he don't come back, you're already going to have to replace your president as well.
Oh yeah.
So it might be good to keep a guy around that. Has some continuity with the players, especially a tough situation.
And let's be honest, the Popovich coaching tree has done really well in the NBA. Kerr comes out of the Popovich coaching tree, and what's her name, Mia Hamm, right? That took over the Aces or whatever. She came out of the Popovich tree, and she got
Becky Hammond, yeah.
I'm just you know what I'm saying. So there's been a lot of success that's come out of that tree. So I'd probably just ride the rest of the season with him. And then I think that's one of the things at the end of the season, the management level needs to take a long sit down and then think about their strategies, take Pop into consideration, maybe even look at Pop for recommendations, things like that, but really evaluate, where you go from here at the end of the season. Because the Spurs have been an up and down crazy storyline. When Pop goes down, there's worry, but then the Pacers, the Spurs stay somewhat competitive. And then you get Wembanyama that goes down with the thrombosis. Now we're talking about blood clots in the shoulder. It just seems like and of course, then the De'Aaron Fox that comes over. So now we're starting to think, oh man, could this be the turning quarter for the Spurs? They're not the guy Fox over there. It just seems like that organization has had a rough up and down year. And I hope that for that organization, at least for the fans, that next year they can at least have some more stability to it. But I think a lot of it's going to depend, like you said, on what Popovich does, what they do with the coaching side, but then also really what is the long-term career look like for Wembanyama and that thrombosis? Is that going to be a factor for him?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just see. I mean, he's already, done more than enough. He's lived the life of 10 coaches, it feels like, I'll then bring Tony and Chris back in here with how well he's done. But yeah, I mean, you'd love to see him come back. It'd be great. But you also, at the end of the day, just hope that he's healthy just in his life for good basketball, that he can just live his day-to-day life without, any issues. That's the main goal here. So if he does come back, great. We'll welcome back with open arms. Everyone will in the league, but we all will understand 1,000% if he decides to step away from coaching, maybe from the president role, in just any kind of other capacity. So we'll see what happens. That's just kind of the latest update with that. Last kind of basketball topic here. The Lakers and Mavericks got a game coming up, fellas. It's right around the corner. My God, it's going to be in Dallas too, I believe. Real question is, what are the fans going to do? How many we miss Luka signs? How many fire Nico signs do you think there's going to be? We'll go over under for 15.
Yeah. Wow. Is Anthony Davis, is he still down for injury right now?
I believe so. He didn't play in their game against the Warriors the other day when they got blown out in that matchup. Also, correction, this game's going to be in Los Angeles, so going to have the home crowd behind Luka and LeBron and the boys out there in Los Angeles. So
yeah, they play in Dallas here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's in a couple of weeks. So, but this one's just kind of the first face-off of many. So, but yeah, Davis is still hurt as of last report. I mean, he didn't play in their game against Golden State. They lost 126-102. They got absolutely blown out.
Yeah, it looks like his expected return date is March 3rd, which definitely puts it past
so he's not
the February 25th game in LA. Matter of fact, LA is favored by 82%. So, being that there's no Anthony Davis and you got a really fired up Luka Doncic that really wants to make a name right now in that LA Lakers, he really is pissed off at Dallas probably for that trade. I would definitely imagine that Lakers are going to walk away with that win over Dallas, and I don't think it's going to be a fight. I think Lakers are going to go in there.
I don't see it being close, Jay, because I watched the game. I watched the majority of the game where they played against Golden State. A lot of their guys are hurt. I mean, a lot of their big men are hurt. I mean, Derek Lively's out. Dwight Powell is. You just mentioned Davis. He's not going to be back. Daniel Gaff. I mean, pretty much all their power forwards and centers for the most part are not playing.
Right after they made that trade, like their whole team went down.
It was just an awful kind of domino effect. It felt like. But yeah, I mean, so I don't think it's going to be close. I mean, unless Kyrie Irving has
that's a fully healthy Lakers team going in there, killer. Ain't not one of them got an injury. Doncic, Reeves, Hachimura, James, Hayes.
They're all good.
I mean, you're getting a fully loaded LA Lakers team going into a hobbled Dallas team. I mean, could you imagine? That's going to be the day of massacre.
What is it that Shannon Sharp always says? OKC, KFC, UFC, Lakers.
It should be a massacre, but a couple of days ago, the Lakers went to play the Hornets, and the Lakers had their full team, and the Hornets killed the Lakers. So, I mean, you just never know. But I think Dallas is going to have a big uphill battle, especially they got so many of their big guys down that it's going to be hard to keep up. And I expect Luka to have another pretty good night, follow up the night he just had. But I think it's going to be the game here in about a week and a half when they go to Dallas is going to be the one against Dallas where he might score 50.
I will say this though. Since it's back-to-back losses to Utah and Charlotte, which, by the way, those are two terrible teams. They should have had those wins. But anyway, since it's back-to-back losses, they have ruled off 2 wins, one over Portland and one over Denver. And I thought it was interesting, James in the win over was it Portland? Yeah, Portland. And then Doncic comes back with a win 2 over Portland and also has 10 rebounds and 7 assists. So could Doncic actually start to round into form, or at least it looks like he's getting comfortable in that lineup to where now he's starting to pick up some momentum. I don't know if that's going to be a long-standing thing, but it should.
JJ Redick, I think, came out and said that they're going to want to play through him first, that he is going to be their top option. Which, I mean, hell, it makes sense. I mean, you just brought this guy over. He's got 15 years the younger of LeBron. I mean, I'm not saying he's more athletic because, I mean,
Yeah.
Luka Doncic ain't the most athletic son of a gun. But I mean, he's definitely a better shooter, right? LeBron is a good scorer because he can get to the bucket and everything. He's a big, aggressive guy who can get layups at ease. But Doncic is a better shooter, for the three ball and everything like that. But I mean, they looked impressive in them against Denver. I didn't expect them to beat Denver like that. That was a very impressive win against obviously a game Denver team who's looked good this year. But yeah, I mean, I think the only way, honestly, that Dallas has a fighting chance is if Kyrie Irving has a good game. He's had a good season, right? He's averaged 24 points this year. So I mean, he's looked good. He has a good game, but I mean, he's gonna have to have some help too. It can't just be Kyrie. It's got to be the other guys. Klay Thompson might have to pull a rabbit out of his hat and do something, kind of turn back the clock. But I mean that's coming up. But we'll see. That's going to be their next big game. And also, I mean, Dallas is 31-27, so they're still a playoff team at the moment. And currently they are the number 8 seed, so they're still a playoff squad. Meanwhile, when you look at LA, they're the number 4 seed right now.
Yeah.
And Jay, right now Lakers 34-21, Houston 35-22. So I know did Frankie send you a message whenever they finally jumped you the other day?
I filter Frankie.
I just want to check in. I just want to make sure.
Frankie knows I love him. But no, they're both at 11.5 right now games back. So really, I understand the Lakers are in 4th and we're in 5th. But truthfully, you might as well just say that's 4th with an asterisk. Because, depending on how it goes from there, I mean, they really are dead even at that point.
I will tell you this, though. A team that surprised me, just kind of look at the standings this year, that I didn't expect to be this good. And that's the Memphis Grizzlies. They're the number 2 seed. I did not expect them to be that good.
Oh, with Memphis? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I thought Memphis would be good, but I didn't expect the number 2 seed.
Well, right now they're tied with Denver. Both of them are 9.5 active OKC. So
and guess who just beat Memphis yesterday?
You're going to tell me the Pacers.
Indiana Pacers beat Memphis yesterday.
And the Pacers are now the number 4 seed in the East. You're currently a half game ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks, and right behind you, we just talked about a little bit earlier, just 2.5 games back, is the Detroit Pistons, for God's sake. So hell of a turnaround for them.
Detroit is definitely making a good push. I remember when they first started, when Cade Cunningham was drafted and Jalen Green was drafted in that same draft, and now it looks like Detroit and Houston are both playing really solid ball because they were both in that same rebuild at the same time.
Yeah, they're both in the same class. So
so that rebuild is definitely coming along for both teams quite well, honestly.
Pacers play the Nuggets tonight.
Ooh, good matchup there. We'll see how that one goes because I know Denver's probably pissed off at their loss the other day. So we'll see if Indiana can round them out. But Tony, I know you mentioned pre-show that you had a list of the top 5, top 10 starting rotations in baseball. If you got that list on you here, we can go ahead and run through those and talk about it.
Yeah, it's from CBS. And Jay, unfortunately, your Astros or the Reds didn't make the top 10 list. We did make honorable mention.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
The honorable mention was Astros, Royals, Twins, Reds, and Padres. Number 10, they had the Pirates. Of course, they got Skeens. They had them at 10. Number 9, a little bit of surprise to me, at least. The Tigers was 9. Yeah,
I mean they had that good run last year.
And plus they got Jack Flannery back, so we'll see. 8, the Rangers.
Okay. Yeah, it's healthy.
7, the Red Sox.
Okay.
And 6, they have the Diamondbacks, which they have a pretty good pitching staff. You'll be happy about this. Number 5, the Atlanta Braves.
All right, I'll take it.
Number 4, they had the New York Yankees.
Okay.
3, they had the Seattle Mariners.
Okay, 3. All right.
I don't get that theory. How the hell does I'm sorry. I gotta tell you, that's some bullshit. I mean, I have to really see the numbers on that because I mean, no, seriously, let
me go over the numbers here. And
Let finish it out and we'll give a full recap.
I'll give you some numbers. Number 2 was the Phillies, and of course, number 1, the Dodgers. They have some numbers here for Seattle.
Okay. What we got
here? The group intact. You had Gilbert. Last year was 3.23 ERA. They got Kirby, who pitched 208 innings, 3.53 ERA. They had Costello, 3.64. Castillo, excuse me. Miller, 2.94 ERA, and Brian Rue, 2.89 ERA. And plus their sixth guy would be Emerson Hancock's a young guy, so he's their depth guy, would be their sixth guy. For the Yankees. Of course, you got Garrett Cole.
Yep, that's a given.
They got Clark Schmidt.
Yep.
Here, Nestor Cortez.
Yeah.
And then they got Stroman. But Stroman, I mean, I don't know if is he going to be in the bullpen? Is he going to be starting? I think actually looking at their between the Yankees and Seattle, I think Seattle has more depth.
Hold on, Tony, real quick. They got rid of Nestor Cortez. He's with Milwaukee right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they picked up Max Fried though from Atlanta.
Okay.
So that's who that was kind of their replacement. So I mean I can accept that. I think the reason, Jay, is that the Mariners, they don't get any coverage. I never see anyone talk about the Mariners, so you don't really know about them. To be fair, I mean I think that's probably your main reason. I mean, because those aren't household names. Unless you're a big fan of baseball, you don't know any of those names that Tony just listed for Seattle. Let's be real here.
Right. The thing about it is, and I can see now where Seattle where they placed ahead of the Astros. But the Astros are such a hard thing because Luis Casilla looks like he'll make his comeback this season. He had a couple of setbacks last year that delayed him, so he's not going to be able to start opening day. He may be a month or two away from really into the season from coming back, but and then you got Javier on. I mean, the Astros have a lot. We have a lot of depth. It's just our depth is injured through Tommy John surgeries. I think this year we will round out into better than what we were last year, especially when Garcia, because you got Blanco, Garcia, Hunter Brown, and Framber Valdez. You can't tell me that's not a top 10 rotation. When they're healthy, that's not a top 10 rotation.
How do you guys feel about the Phillies being 2?
I mean, hell, that's the main reason they got that deal. Yeah. Philly's got a good team.
I knew Dodgers were going to get number 1. You don't have.
Yeah, I mean, hell, they have. I feel like you could not put them at 1 now.
Yeah, I don't think number 1 the Dodgers, but I think 2, 3, and 4, even 5 with the Braves. I think it's really close. I think you could move 2, 3, 4, 5 and around, and I don't think you could argue a whole lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And I will tell you, like Zach Wheeler, Nola, Suarez. I mean, those 3 pitchers. I remember them last year pitching, and they were really lights out guys. So I totally get that part.
That's a good team.
And the Romano and Strom, those dudes. Yeah, I totally get why Philly is number 2. I'd put them at number 2 as well, honestly, with that depth chart. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see though. I mean, this, like I said, it's all just projections, but I think that we'll see. We'll see. Obviously,
I think the biggest thing, Logan, is just going to be who can stay the healthiest. I mean,
that's the main thing.
I know
all about my team getting hurt last year. Yeah. Hell, I mean, our best pitcher got hurt last year, and one of our guys still won the Cy Young.
I think it's kind of interesting that the Dodgers are still number 1, and they don't even have Shohei Ohtani in the mix. Could you imagine?
He's not even. Is he gonna? He's not pitching this year, correct?
I don't think he is.
I don't need him.
From what I heard, they were that he was on track to pitch this year.
Really?
What they were saying on the radio the other day.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey,
that'd be interesting to see.
I mean, I don't know. That's what they were saying on the radio. I don't know for sure, but they were talking like he was his recovery was going good, and that they thought he was going to be on track to pitch.
Yeah. I see here. This article came out earlier in the month. Otani's likely to resume pitching in Major League games sometime this May. Dave Roberts said
Wow.
in an interview. So it's still going to be a couple months. But I mean, honestly, hell, if you don't need him in the early months. You can get
But
him
he
in
did
May.
have Tommy John, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. He had Tommy John, right?
I
Was it
believe
not Tommy
so.
John?
Hold on, let me look.
Because if he had Tommy John, that is a super fast turnaround. I don't know how he pulled that off.
No, it wasn't Tommy John. It was just an arthroscopic surgery to repair a labrum tear, but it was not Tommy John.
Oh, okay. So he just had a labrum issue. Okay.
And it was on his left shoulder too, so it's not his throwing shoulder. I don't believe. I think he's a righty. So that's what it was. Yeah, it was his non-throwing shoulder. He hurt it
Why would he
after
be out?
after he stole in a game.
That doesn't make sense. If it was torn on the non-throwing hand, he can still pitch. His pitching arm is still perfect. Why would that keep him out? Because if you can hit,
well, they were probably just wanting to take the load off of it last year, and I mean, hell, it worked out for him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess you take it easy on him in the interim because you got all them deferred years. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they didn't they didn't need him to pitch last year. They still won. I mean, like I said, he is a good pitcher. He's a better hitter, obviously. He's won MVP, 2-3 years in a row, damn near. Right. He's a better hitter, but he's a good pitcher.
Real quick, as of last year, the Braves were the number one, had the number one pitching staff with a team ERA of 3.49. And the Mariners was second with the team ERA of 3.49 last year. Wow. And then the Guardians was third last year with a 3.61 team ERA. And then
I'm surprised.
The Tigers was right behind Cleveland.
I guess I wouldn't realize how good Seattle pitching was last year. I didn't realize they had that low of an ERA.
Yeah, the last couple of years their pitching's been real good. Their offense just ain't been able to keep up with their pitching. They ain't been able to score runs.
So that makes me ask a question here. So you just said that Cleveland had the second or third best team ERA in baseball, right, Chris?
Yep, third.
So how come they're not even a top 10 starter in rotation this year?
Yeah.
Do they have guys leave? I'm just curious how that happened.
Honorable mention on this list.
Yeah, they might. I'd have to look at the roster. They might have had some guys.
I know. You know what I think that might be, because that's just team ERA, correct? That's not just starters.
Yeah, it's team ERA.
Okay, I think what Cleveland is Cleveland has one of the best bullpens in the league. If you look at relievers, if you look at bullpens, Cleveland's got to be one or two, in terms of the back end, in terms of the guys who they have pitched,
maybe the best closer in baseball last year.
Yeah, Class A. Yeah,
they're not even.
So that's where their success comes in, is their bullpen.
Yeah. This was their team ERA.
Wow. Okay.
Let me look up their starting rotation, because I'm curious now. Because I know they have some young guys, but so here's what they're projecting. Let's see. Sure. Let's see. In no particular order. Tristan McKenzie, Tanner Beebe, Luis Ortiz, Gavin Williams, Ben Lively. Those are indeed players in the major leagues. I've heard a couple of them. But yeah, I think their thing is, I remember them doing it in the playoffs too. They had I forget the term of it, but they had their relief guys start games. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a trend we've seen in recent years. I think Tampa started it, where one of your bullpen guys would start a game, and then it would just kind of devolve from there. Which, I mean, I think they do that to give starters even more rest, but it works. But I never thought of that to be a strategy up till 2-3 years ago.
The Reds had to do that a lot last year because of all the injuries to our starting pitchers, and we only had like 3 or 4 starting pitchers left there for a while. So there'd be games where it was a bullpen game. We'd have to start a bullpen guy, and then you're pitching a couple innings, and then after that, it's like you're changing pitchers every inning or two.
And that's the thing too, is you can't just bring guys up and down. You know what I mean? It's not like it's the NBA when you can bring a guy up from the G League. In MLB, you've got player options. You got minor league options. So you can't just bring some guy up, to replace a starter, unless you plan on pretty much keeping him on your roster for a while. So I think that's kind of a way that teams have kind of managed that system. You know what I mean? Is to start a reliever while your guy recovers, every 5 or so days, to just kind of fill that gap. So I mean that's how you see a lot more guys take a lot longer or stay a little bit longer in the minor league system, unless your name's Paul Skeens. But that's another story for another day.
I know the Reds were honorable mention, but I honestly think the Reds by the end of the season they could be the top. They could be I'd say top 6. Our pitching depth's pretty damn good this year.
Right.
Yeah. See, I think with Atlanta, the only thing that hurt Atlanta last year was just injuries. You know what I mean? I mean, Spencer Strider went down early on. Ronaldo Lopez had an ERA of like maybe 2, if that. Then you had, like I said, Max Fried went down, or excuse me, he got traded. Swellenbach is a good young arm who had some good moments last year. A little bit scared with Ian Anderson, though, a guy who's been hurt and guy got roughed up a little bit the other day in spring training, but he's going to be a back end option anyways. I mean, and let's not forget we had the old wonder in Charlie Morton forever. He was just kind of holding it down for a while. So, I like where the team is at for pitching wise for the moment, though. I'm okay with that. I still wish we would have maybe done a little bit more in the bullpen. Because I mean, I think it's unless you're like Cleveland or someone like that or the Dodgers, you can always work on your bullpen. You can always get guys to help fill those middle innings to help you out there.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, guys, unless you got any other topics you want to talk about, I think we can go
real quick. I had one thing I want to ask you guys about. Really, kind of more or less, maybe you, Logan, because I think you might be most primed to possibly trade up to get him. So Shedeur Sanders, isn't going to throw at the combine. He's going to throw at the pro day, which is nothing new. I mean, Jaden Daniels. So that doesn't really have any shock value to me. I'm wondering why he wouldn't. He is going to go to the combine. He's just not going to perform there. He is going to meet with team, I guess, officials to, probably do a little interviewing, whatever, to see, however. So he will meet with some teams. Yeah, but he won't do any medical screening. Now, I don't understand. Why would you not want to do medical screening if you don't have any, unless you got something to hide? And I'm asking you that kind of, maybe you more specifically, Logan, because of the fact that there has been rumors I've seen. It's just rumors, but possibly y'all guys could trade up to get Shedeur. So I guess, does that bother you that he's not willing to do medical testing?
Medical testing, yes, it does bother me. Now, throwing at the combine, look, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said, okay, sure. But, I mean, we've seen a lot more top picks not throw at the combine, not throw at pro. You know what I mean? Because there's not a whole lot of effort. It feels like, hell, as soon as their college season ends, they're pretty much already drafted to the teams that everyone picks them to. So you're not going to, hell, if you have a great pro day, but you're already a top 3 pick, is that really going to change your perspective? Unless you have a bad one. But for the medical testing, I do have an issue with, because like you said, I'm under the impression of if you're not hurt, if you're not having a lingering injury, why wouldn't you go through with this?
Exactly. And I'm thinking, because I mean, I'm not saying he does. I'm speculating, obviously, but
of course, we don't know if
let's say he had something minor, but in his mind, if he does medical testing, they find something, or even if he doesn't have something, but they do medical testing and they say they find something. I'm wondering if he's scared to do medical testing because it could affect his draft status.
That's got to be 100%.
Regardless, if he has it or not. I'm thinking that's the only thing I can think of why you wouldn't do medical testing, is that you're afraid that if they did find something that could throw off your draft status.
No, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And if he does go to Vegas, hey, we'll welcome it in with open arms. But that is kind of a concern.
And
that's an open medical staff.
The article I'm reading, Jay, says it is not known if Sanders will also go through the medical exams prospects are scheduled to do each year at the combine. So I guess I don't think he said he wasn't going to do them yet. But I guess there's speculation that he's not going to. But he is. But he is not going to throw. But he might still do the medical.
I mean, didn't it come out also that Cam Ward isn't going to throw either? Like I said, I mean, for these top 5 picks, I don't see a reason for them to throw. This is for the guys who could be middle of the pack, right? But they want to improve their draft stock. But if you're already going to be a consensus top 5 pick, which hell, a lot of these guys already know, you know what I mean? Their agents already know, not who's going to draft them, but where they're going to go. there's no point in them throwing. You could just hurt yourself, for God's sake.
Hey Logan,
Yeah.
I seen a report. I wanted to see what you thought about this, and
Yep, go
it
ahead.
wasn't from a major, one from ESPN or anybody like that. But there was some speculation that the Rams were possibly talking to the Raiders about training the Rams quarterback to the Raiders in a package. How would you feel about that?
Oh man, see, that's a tough one because I like Matthew Stafford. I think Stafford's a damn good quarterback, but he's what, 35, 36? He's old. He's older. He's still productive, but he's older.
Yep.
And I don't know if you put him in there, if this team's gonna gel and if they're gonna, automatically be a playoff team in a tough division now with how good we've seen the rest of the division amp up this year. I don't know if Stafford's the guy who takes you over the top. I mean, hell, I would still rather take Stafford over the core we have right now. I would way rather would have him than Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. I'd take him in a heartbeat. But I don't know who I would give up though.
I'm sure it'd be your number one pick for sure.
Yeah, it would be that top pick. But I mean, I don't know if they want another like a player or some other picks involved. I'm not sure. But LA is interesting because I mean, it seems like Stafford is in a way good as gone. It feels like, you know what I mean? It kind of feels like that's the narrative right now that he is going to be out of there.
Well, they gave Stafford and his agent permission to go seek a partner, go look for a trade and stuff. So
it could be wrong. Isn't Cooper Kupp also either due for a free agent or for a contract extension? Or
they've already told Kupp. Yeah, they've already told Kupp they're moving on. They're moving on from him. That he's not going to be back.
Oh yeah, they're definitely moving on.
To me, that makes it feel like LA's going for a rebuild. Because I mean, why else would you get rid of one of your best receivers and your quarterback for I mean, LA had a good year last year. To be honest, they made the playoffs. They have a good young team on defense. They have a good defense. Jared Verse is a monster, and they got Puka Nacua, right? Who he was a little bit banged up last year, but he's still a good player. LA's in a tough spot though, I think, because if you do make that trade, we'll just say with Vegas, right? You'll get a top 5 pick, and you'll draft one of the X, Y, and Z quarterbacks you can pick from at the time, and that could work. Honestly, that could work. And if he does, if Stafford does go to Vegas, I'll accept it, but I just don't know how well he would do here in a very limited role because he's not going to be here for many years. It's definitely just going to be, oh, hey, you're here for a year or two, and then you're probably going to go and retire while we find the next guy.
Right. Real quick, if you don't mind. So,
yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gaza.
I didn't have none.
No,
I thought Gaza. No, I was just. Have you noticed though too? And we can maybe talk about this tomorrow. But now I see the NFL is considering more changes to the kickoff rules in 2025.
Well, they're going to change that.
Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, that's on SI.com. But apparently it says the NFL is evaluating more potential changes to the league's kickoff rules beginning on the 2025 season. The league's competition committee chairman, Rich McKay, told reporters on Sunday that the league is discussing changes that could lead to more returns in 25 and beyond. McKay, who is the CEO of the Atlanta Falcons, said that one consideration is giving teams possession at the 35-yard line instead of the 30 on touchbacks. The league is also considering moving the kickoff 5 yards further back, beginning the kickoff at the kicking team's own 30-yard line. Now, the rule changes to kickoffs last season resulted in a 57% rise in kickoff returns per Pro Football Talk while delivering a lower rate of injury. So now, I mean, I guess we're going to stand by for more possible changes. It takes 24 days.
Well, no, my thing is that it feels like you had it right. Like you just read the numbers there. That sounds good to me. Why change it even more?
I don't know. It takes 24 teams to approve that if they're going to make more changes to it. But
when they first put that new rule in this year, it was when they first put it in, it was going to be that you touchback, the ball went to 35, and then they changed it right at the last second. So I could see them moving that. And I think that's a good idea because I'll even get more returns because teams are going to be less likely to want to give the other try to get a touchback because they're not going to want to give the team all the way to 35. So I do see that probably happening. Because like I said, that was the way they originally wrote it, and then they end up changing it right at the last second. I don't know if you really need to move the kicker back 5 yards as much.
He's already by himself. Damn.
But I do think that changing it to 35 is a good idea because it's even going to get more returns because teams will let a team start at that 30, but if you start at 35, I know it only seems like 5 yards, but hell, with these field goal kickers now, you get that 35, you get 1 first down, maybe 2, you're in field goal range.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just a slight tweak to it, but yeah, I mean, we'll see though. I mean,
I do have one question for Gonzo, and I don't know if you guys talked about this before I came on the show today, but I just saw that, and I guess you guys are tracking the Indiana University Indianapolis men's basketball team survived without injuries after their bus caught fire along Interstate 275 on Sunday. Did y'all hear about that?
I didn't see that. I didn't. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it came Sunday after the team made its way home from a loss to Northern Kentucky. So apparently, IU bus caught fire. Nobody was hurt though. Thank the Lord.
What Indiana team was that?
It says IU Indianapolis men's basketball team.
Indianapolis.
Oh, IUPUI or IUP. It used to be IUPUI.
Yeah.
Now it's IUP.
Yeah, that's not IU University. That's not.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just reading. It says IU Indianapolis men's. I don't know.
Yeah, it's another college here in Indiana, but it wasn't the Hoosiers.
Yeah, because IU played Purdue on Sunday.
So, we played Purdue yesterday. Yep. And
y'all got the big win. Congrats on that. You beat the ranked team.
Congrats.
I think it's too little, too late.
But real quick, Logan. Also, congratulations to women's Texas basketball team.
I was just going to bring it up.
Top of the poll, the first time in 2 decades. Good job, ladies.
21 years. Yep, I'm about to say Texas lost in double OT to NC State, knocked them out of the number 1 spot. UCLA had been number 1, but now the Longhorns up there number 1. So currently Texas at 1, UCLA at 2, Notre Dame at 3. And those are your top 3 seeds, and then so on and so forth, right?
First time in 20 years, Logan.
I know. So y'all are rolling right now. If only. If only.
It's a dream. It's a dream.
Yes, it is. But all right, well, we'll wrap it up here, guys. We'll get on with the rest of our days. Of course, we appreciate every one of y'all checking us out on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, on our Twitch channel as well. And if you want to watch any of our other content, just use the link tree in our description. You can check out all of Gonzo's shows and all the rest of the great shows we have on our network every single day. So for Jay McLovin, for Tony and Chris Gonzalez, I've been your host and producer today, Logan Landers, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern, for another edition of The After